The colony world of Vera was busy every day. Ships came and went from the starport, bringing traders, workers, and travelers. The streets near the port were filled with voices, footsteps, and the smell of food from small stalls. People from many worlds lived there. Humans made up most of the crowd, but there were also short, gray-skinned miners, tall insect-like merchants, and others with strange shapes and colors. In that busy place, no one paid much attention to the small alien girl who moved quietly between alleys. Her name was Mira. She was thin, her clothes were torn and old, and her skin had a faint golden tint that caught the light when she stepped out of shadow. Mira was young, only a child, but she had already learned how to survive in a world that did not care for her. Every day she searched for scraps of food, sometimes from the trash bins behind restaurants, sometimes from the corners of the market after the stalls were closed. She kept her head low so no one would notice her. If they noticed, they might chase her away. Mira carried a small bag patched many times that she used to hold anything useful. Sometimes she found stale bread or leftover fruit. Sometimes just broken pieces of metal she could trade for a little water. Hunger was always with her, but she had learned to ignore the pain in her stomach. She told herself that tomorrow might be better, though she never knew if that was true. There were moments when she saw families passing by, human parents holding the hands of their children or alien elders carrying baskets with food. She often wondered what it felt like to walk with someone who cared for you, to eat until you were full, to sleep without fear of being woken by cold or noise. She did not remember her parents. She had memories only of wandering, hiding, and trying to survive. At night, Mira found places to rest, sometimes an old crate, sometimes a quiet corner near the wall of the starport. The hum of engines became her lullaby. She wrapped herself in an old cloth and stared at the stars when she could see them through the smog above. She liked the stars. They made her feel less alone. Somewhere out there, she thought, must be a place where she belonged. One morning, Mira walked carefully near the market. Vendors were shouting, calling for customers to buy their goods. The smell of roasted meat and sweet cakes filled the air. Mira's mouth watered, but she did not dare to go close. She stayed behind, waiting for the moment when someone dropped something, or when a stall closed and left behind scraps. She watched carefully like a small shadow. Her chance came when a fruit merchant argued with a buyer. In the noise, a soft fruit rolled down from the table and landed near the edge of the stall. Mira darted forward, grabbed it, and slipped back into the crowd. Her heart beat fast, not because of the danger, but because she finally had something to eat. She bit into the fruit, juice running down her chin. It was sweet, sweeter than anything she had tasted in many days. She smiled, a small smile, but it faded when she noticed a group of older children watching her. They were street boys, bigger and stronger. They looked at her with hard eyes. One of them pointed at her and laughed. Mira clutched the fruit and stepped back. She knew what would happen. They wanted it, and she was alone. She turned and ran, her bare feet slapping against the stone ground. The boys shouted and chased her. She darted between crates through narrow alleys until she found a pile of trash and hid behind it. Her breath was sharp and fast. The fruit was still in her hand. The boys ran past without seeing her. She waited until their voices faded, then slowly came out. Her legs were shaking, but she held the fruit close. She took another bite, but now it tasted different. Fear had stolen the sweetness. Still, she ate it. Hunger was stronger than fear. Later that day, as the market grew quieter, Mira found a half-broken piece of bread near a trash bin. She reached for it, but a voice stopped her. "You should not eat that." "It is spoiled," Mira froze. She looked up and saw a man standing nearby. He was human, tall, with dark hair and simple clothes covered in dust from work. He did not look rich, but his eyes were calm. He held a small bag in his hand. Mira stepped back, ready to run. The man raised his hand slowly. "It is all right. I will not hurt you." He opened his bag and pulled out a piece of bread, fresh and soft, and placed it on the ground between them. "Take this instead." Mira looked at him, then at the bread. She waited. She had learned not to trust quickly. Sometimes people set traps for children like her, only to laugh or shout. But the man did not move. He simply waited. At last, hunger won. She stepped forward, grabbed the bread, and ran. She did not look back. That night, Mira ate the bread in her hiding place. It was warm and soft, and for a moment she felt safe. She thought of the man who had given it to her. Why had he helped her? Most people ignored her. Some pushed her away. She did not know what to think. She only knew she wished for more nights like this. The next day, she returned to the same place. She hid behind a crate, watching. The man appeared again, carrying his work bag. When he saw her, he smiled slightly and placed another piece of food on the ground. Then he walked away without waiting. Mira blinked. She waited until he was gone, then took the food. It was fresh again. For many days, the same thing happened. Mira began to expect him. She never spoke to him, but she noticed details. His name, she learned from others, was Tomas. He worked in the shipyards, fixing old machines. He was not rich, but he always found a way to leave something for her. Mira began to trust him little by little. One evening, after eating the bread he left, Mira noticed her hand glowing faintly in the dark. She raised it close to her face. On the back of her hand was a strange mark, shaped like a flame. She had seen it before, but she thought it was only a birthmark. Tonight it looked brighter, almost alive. She rubbed it, but the glow did not fade. Fear and curiosity filled her heart. What was it? Why did it shine? She pulled the cloth over her hand and hid it. Mira did not know that her life was about to change. She thought she would always be the girl in the shadows, searching for food from trash, hiding from the world. But the glow on her hand was a sign, a signal from a past she had forgotten. The streets of Vera were only the beginning. The stars she loved to watch would soon call to her in ways she could not yet imagine. For now, she closed her eyes and tried to sleep. The bread in her stomach gave her warmth. The cloth around her body gave her comfort, and the memory of Tomas's kindness gave her hope. She did not know why he cared, but she was grateful. Somewhere in the distance, engines roared as ships left for other worlds. Mira dreamed of flying among them, not as a beggar or shadow, but as someone who mattered. The mark on her hand glowed softly as she slept. The next morning came with a gray sky above the colony. Mira woke up early, her body cold from the night air. She rubbed her hands together, but her eyes kept falling on the strange mark. It was still there, faint but real, shaped like a flame. The glow had faded since last night, but it had not gone away. She touched it carefully, as if afraid it might burn her. It did not hurt. It only felt warm. Mira pulled her cloth tighter around her and stepped out from her hiding place. The market streets were waking, with vendors setting up stalls and workers hurrying to their jobs. She moved through the crowd quietly, keeping her hand hidden. The mark made her uneasy. She had always thought she was just another lost child, nothing important. Why would her hand hold something strange like this? As she walked near the shipyard, she saw Thomas again. He was busy with a machine, his hands dark with grease. Mira stayed back, watching. She wanted to thank him for the bread, but words stuck in her throat. She was afraid of speaking to him, afraid that if she spoke, the kindness would stop. Still, Thomas noticed her. He lifted his head and smiled, then reached into his bag. As usual, he placed food on a small crate and walked away. Mira waited until he disappeared, then picked up the food. This time it was a small piece of cheese and bread together. She ate slowly, savoring every bite. While she ate, she thought about showing him her hand. Perhaps he would know what it meant. But fear held her back. What if he told others? What if they chased her away? She could not risk it. That night she dreamed again. In her dream, she was standing in a wide hall filled with firelight. Huge shapes moved in the shadows, wings stretching, eyes glowing. A deep voice whispered her name, not unkind, but heavy with power. She tried to see who spoke, but the fire grew brighter until she woke up with a start. The mark on her hand was glowing again, brighter than before. Her heart pounded. She pressed her hand against her chest and closed her eyes. She felt warmth spread through her body, a strange comfort. The days passed. Mira kept living as she always had, searching for scraps, taking food Thomas left, and hiding from bullies. But the glow on her hand kept returning, especially at night. Sometimes it flickered like a candle. Sometimes it shone strong enough to light the wall beside her. She wrapped her hand tightly in cloth, afraid others would see. One afternoon, Mira was near the library district, a place where few poor children dared to go. The buildings there were tall and old, filled with books and records from many worlds. She liked to look at them from afar, imagining what secrets they held. That day, she hid near the steps, watching scholars and workers walk in and out. Suddenly, she heard footsteps behind her. "Mira," said a voice. She turned quickly. It was Thomas. He stood there with a kind expression, holding a small bag. "You should not be here," he said gently. "The guards do not like children near this place." Mira looked down at the ground, silent. Thomas studied her for a moment, then lowered his voice. "Your hand. I have seen you hiding it. What is wrong with it? Mira froze. She pulled the cloth tighter, but Thomas was patient. He did not reach for her. He only waited. Finally, with trembling fingers, she unwrapped her hand. The flame mark was glowing faintly in the afternoon light. Thomas's eyes widened. I thought so, he whispered. Mira stepped back, afraid. Do not tell, she whispered in her thin voice. I will not, Thomas promised. He looked around, making sure no one was near. Then he said, This mark is old. I have seen it in the records. If you trust me, I can show you. Mira hesitated. She had trusted no one for years. But something in his voice was steady, like the ground beneath her feet. She nodded slowly. Together they slipped into the library. The tall halls were quiet, filled with the smell of old paper and glowing data screens. Thomas led her to a corner where old records from alien worlds were stored. He moved his hand across a scanner and images appeared on a screen. Strange symbols. Pictures of tall beings with wings of fire. Mira's eyes widened. These are the Drakkar, Thomas said softly. Long ago they were rulers of many stars. They were called the Dragon People, though they were not true beasts. They were proud, strong, and wise. But their empire fell. Betrayal and war destroyed them. Only a few were said to survive. He tapped the screen, showing a crest shaped like a flame. It looked almost the same as the mark on Mira's hand. Mira lifted her hand slowly, placing it beside the image. The shapes were nearly identical. Her heart raced. What does it mean? She asked in a whisper. Thomas looked at her carefully. It means you are not just a lost child. You are connected to them. Maybe you are one of their blood. Mira shook her head quickly. No, I am nothing. I live in trash. I am no one. Thomas knelt so his eyes met hers. You are not nothing. This mark means something. It means you have a history, a place. You are more than what the streets made you. Mira's eyes filled with tears, but she turned away. She could not believe it. Yet deep inside, a small part of her wanted it to be true. A part of her that had always dreamed of belonging somewhere. Before Thomas could say more, heavy footsteps echoed through the hall. Guards entered, speaking with someone dressed in fine robes. Mira quickly wrapped her hand again. Thomas guided her out through a side door, his face serious. You must be careful, he warned. If others see the mark, they may try to take you. Not everyone would want the heir of the Drakkar to return. Heir? Mira repeated, the word strange on her tongue. Thomas nodded slowly. If the stories are true, the mark belongs only to the royal line. The dragon throne was theirs, and it has been empty for many years. Mira's mind spun. Royal line throne, it was too much. She was still just a girl who searched trash for food. How could she be tied to something so grand? That night she could not sleep. She sat awake, staring at the glowing mark. The dream voice echoed in her head again, deep and strong. Mira, flame of the throne. The words filled her with fear and wonder. The next day, trouble came. The group of street boys who had chased her before returned, but this time they were not alone. With them was a tall alien with sharp eyes and pale skin. He studied Mira as if he already knew something. That is the girl, one boy said. She has something strange. Mira's chest tightened. The alien stepped closer, but before he could reach her, Thomas appeared from the crowd. He stood between Mira and the alien. She is under my care, Thomas said firmly. The alien narrowed his eyes. Be careful, human. That girl carries more than you understand. Then he turned and walked away with the boys. Mira clung to Thomas's arm, her small body trembling. They know, she whispered. Yes, Thomas said, his face grim. And they will come again. We must find a way to keep you safe. Mira looked down at her hand, the flame mark glowing faintly even in the daylight. For the first time she understood it was not just a mystery. It was a sign that others could see. A sign that would draw danger to her. She was no longer just the little girl of the trash heaps. She was something more, though she did not yet know what. And the world was beginning to notice. The colony of Vera had always been noisy, but in recent days Mira noticed a change in the air. People whispered more often, guards moved more carefully, and strangers searched the streets with watchful eyes. Mira kept her head down, yet she felt them looking for her. The flame mark on her hand was hidden under cloth, but she knew the secret was out. Thomas walked with her through the crowded market. He had insisted she stay close. His face was calm, but Mira could see the tension in his jaw. He carried his work bag as always, but now he also kept a small tool in his pocket that could be used as a weapon if needed. You must not wander alone, he told her softly. There are people searching. They do not want you safe, Mira nodded. Fear tightened her chest. She was used to danger from bullies and hunger. But this was different. These new eyes in the crowd felt sharper, like hunters. That evening, Thomas led her to a quieter district near the shipyard. He had found a small, unused storage room where Mira could rest safely. It had no windows, only one door. He placed a blanket for her and some food he had saved. You will stay here for now, he said. It is safer than the open streets. Mira sat on the blanket, holding the food but not eating. Why do they want me? She asked. Thomas looked at her hand wrapped in cloth. Because of the mark. Some fear what it means. Some may want to use you for their own gain. The old stories said the return of the Drakkar heir would change the balance of power. That means many will try to stop you before you even understand who you are. Mira lowered her eyes. I do not want to be heir. I only want to live. That is why we must keep moving, Thomas said firmly. But you cannot hide forever. One day you must face what you are, Mira did not answer. She curled up on the blanket, trying to rest, but her mind was full of firelight and whispers. Again she dreamed of wings in the shadows and voices calling her name. When she woke, the flame mark glowed stronger than before, filling the small room with faint light. The next morning, Thomas returned with news. The alien you saw before, the one with pale skin, has been asking questions. His name is Sarvik. He works for those who betrayed the Drakkar long ago. If he finds you, he will not be kind. Mira's hands shook as she tightened the cloth around her mark. Then he will find me soon. I am only small. I cannot fight. You are small, yes, Thomas said, placing a hand on her shoulder. But you are not helpless. I have seen courage in you, Mira. You will find strength when the time comes. His words gave her a little comfort, though fear remained. That day, Thomas tried to continue his work at the shipyard while Mira stayed hidden. But Sarvik's men searched the area. Mira heard heavy boots outside the storage room, voices speaking in harsh tones. She held her breath, clutching the blanket tightly. At last the steps moved away. She exhaled shakily, tears forming in her eyes. When Thomas returned, he knew they could not stay longer. They are closing in. We must leave the colony before night falls. Mira's eyes widened. Leave? Go where? Anywhere safer than here. I know an old tunnel under the starport. Few remember it. From there we can reach the transport docks. If we are lucky, we can board a ship. Fear and hope mixed inside Mira. She had never left Vera. The streets, the alleys, even the trash piles. They were all she knew. But something deep inside her stirred at the thought of leaving. The stars she had always watched from below were waiting. When night came, Thomas led her through the alleys, keeping to the shadows. Mira clutched his hand tightly, her heart racing. The streets were quieter than usual, but danger felt closer with every step. Twice they had to hide as groups of strangers passed, scanning the crowd. At last they reached a hidden grate near the edge of the starport. Thomas pulled it open and they slipped into the darkness below. The tunnel was damp and narrow, filled with the sound of dripping water. Mira shivered, but she kept moving, following Thomas's steady steps. As they walked deeper, the air grew heavy. Strange symbols marked the walls, glowing faintly. Mira touched one and felt warmth rush through her body. Her flame mark glowed in response. Thomas stopped and turned to her. This tunnel may be older than the colony itself. Perhaps the Drakkar built it long ago. It seems to answer you. Mira stared at her glowing hand, fear and wonder mixing. Why does it follow me? Because you are part of them, Thomas said. Even if you do not yet believe it. Before Mira could answer, voices echoed from behind. Sarvik's hunters had found the tunnel. Their footsteps grew louder. Run, Thomas said. They hurried forward, the tunnel twisting and sloping downward. Mira's breath came fast, her legs burning, but she did not stop. Behind them, light from torches grew closer. The hunters were gaining. Suddenly, the tunnel opened into a wide chamber. Ancient carvings covered the walls, showing winged figures rising from fire. At the center stood a stone pedestal. Mira slowed, drawn to it. Mira, no, Thomas urged, but she could not look away. The flame mark on her hand glowed brighter, filling the chamber with light. She placed her hand on the pedestal. Heat surged through her, strong but not painful. For a moment, fire-like energy surrounded her small frame. The hunters at the tunnel entrance froze, their eyes wide. What is this? Mira gasped, trembling. The flame of your bloodline, Thomas whispered. It is waking. The hunters shouted and rushed forward. But as they entered the chamber, a burst of fiery light exploded from Mira, forcing them back. The walls shook, dust falling from the ceiling. The hunters staggered, shielding their eyes. Mira fell to her knees, the glow fading. She was weak, her body shaking. Thomas caught her before she collapsed. "You did it," he said softly. "You held them back." "I did not mean to," Mira whispered. "It just happened. That is the power inside you," Thomas said. "It will protect you when you need it most." The hunters recovered and shouted again. Thomas lifted Mira and pulled her forward through another tunnel exit. They ran until the sound of pursuit grew faint. At last they reached a small hatch that led to the surface near the docks. Above them, the night sky was filled with stars. Ships glowed as they lifted off. Mira stared at them with wide eyes, even as fear still gripped her. "We cannot stop here," Thomas said. "But now we know. The mark is not only a sign, it is power, and they fear it." Mira looked down at her hand, faintly glowing even now. For the first time, she felt something more than fear. She felt the spark of hope. She was not only a girl of shadows anymore. She was someone the world wanted to find, someone the stars themselves seemed to call. But she also knew the hunt had only begun. The night air outside the tunnel was sharp and cold. Mira held onto Thomas's hand as they moved quickly toward the edge of the docks. Ships hummed as their engines powered up, sending ripples of light across the landing field. Mira had always dreamed of the stars, but now they seemed both beautiful and dangerous. They hid behind a stack of crates, catching their breath. Mira's body was still weak from the strange fire that had burst from her in the ancient chamber. Her flame mark glowed faintly beneath the cloth, a quiet reminder of what she had done. She leaned against Thomas, trembling. "We cannot stay on Vera," Thomas whispered. "They will not stop hunting you." Mira looked up at the ships. "Where can we go?" "Somewhere far," Thomas said, but his eyes carried worry. He did not know where safety could be found. As they prepared to move, a soft voice came from behind the crates. "Do not fear. We have been waiting for you." Mira spun, eyes wide. Out of the shadows stepped 3 figures. They were not human. Their tall bodies carried a faint golden glow and their eyes shone like embers. Their faces were sharp, noble, and strange. Yet something about them felt familiar to Mira. Thomas moved protectively in front of her. "Who are you?" he demanded. The tallest of the 3 bowed his head slightly. "We are Drakkar, loyal to the true line. We have searched for the heir and now we have found her." Mira's breath caught. "Me?" she whispered. The Drakkar looked at her, his gaze steady. "The mark of flame is upon your hand. It belongs only to the royal blood. You are the last child of the throne." Mira shook her head quickly. "No, I am no heir. I am just a girl who searched trash for food." The second Drakkar stepped forward, her voice gentle. "You are more, child. The fire chose you. It has already spoken. Did you not feel it in the chamber below?" Mira thought of the firelight that had surrounded her, the power that had burst out without her control. She hugged her arms around herself. "I did not want it. It frightened me." "That is because you do not yet understand it," the Drakkar woman said. "But it belongs to you. It is your gift and your burden." Thomas kept his voice steady. "If what you say is true, why now? Why not before?" The tallest Drakkar lowered his eyes. "Because we thought all hope was lost. The traitors destroyed the royal family years ago. We searched the stars for survivors but found none. Only whispers remained. Yet we never stopped watching. And now the flame mark has returned." Mira's heart pounded. She wanted to run, to deny it. But deep inside she felt something stir. The dreams, the voices, the strange fire, it all pointed to the same truth. "Still," she whispered, "I am not strong. I cannot be what you say." The Drakkar bowed before her, their heads low. "Strength is not only in fire or battle. It is in spirit. You have survived hunger, cold, and fear. You have shown kindness even when you had nothing. That is the strength of a true heir." Mira's throat tightened. No one had ever spoken of her like that before. She looked at Thomas, who gave her a small nod. "You are more than you believe, Mira. I have seen it." Before Mira could speak, a sudden shout echoed across the docks. Sarvek's hunters had spotted them. Armed figures rushed forward, weapons glowing. The Drakkar stood tall, their eyes blazing. "We will protect the heir," the tallest one declared. The battle was fierce. The hunters fired, but the Drakkar moved with grace and fire, their hands glowing with heat. Mira watched in awe as streams of flame curved through the air, striking the enemy. Thomas pulled her behind cover, but her flame mark began to glow again, stronger than ever. Fear rushed through her. "Thomas, it is happening again. Do not fight it," he said firmly. "Let it guide you." Mira closed her eyes, her small body trembling. She felt warmth spread from her hand to her chest, then to her whole being. The voice from her dream spoke again, clear and strong. "You are the flame of the throne. Rise, child." Her eyes opened, glowing with light. Fire surrounded her, not burning but shining like wings. She stepped out from behind the crate, her fear forgotten. The hunters stopped in their tracks, stunned by the sight. The Drakkar bowed their heads as if in reverence. "The air awakens," one whispered. Mira lifted her hand, and a wave of firelight burst forward, not to destroy but to push back the attackers. The ground shook as the hunters stumbled and fell. None were burned, but their weapons were shattered by the force. Silence followed, broken only by the hum of the ships. When the fire faded, Mira fell to her knees. Thomas rushed to her side, holding her gently. She was weak, but she was still breathing. Her mark glowed faintly, as if calm after the storm. The Drakkar approached slowly. "You see now," the woman said. "The fire is yours. It knows you." "I cannot control it," Mira whispered. "It is too much. You will learn," the tall Drakkar said. "We will guide you. The throne waits, but first you must become ready." Thomas looked at them warily. "And if she refuses? If she only wishes for a simple life?" The Drakkar answered with sadness. "Then the flame will still burn within her, and others will still hunt her. She cannot escape her blood. But she may choose how to use it. That is her right." Mira closed her eyes. Her body still trembled, but her heart felt strangely clear. She remembered the hunger, the cold nights, the fear of being alone. She remembered Tomas's kindness, the bread he left for her, the hope in his voice. And now she saw the Drakkar bowing before her, calling her heir. She did not know if she was ready, but she knew she could not run forever. At dawn, the group left the docks and found shelter in the hills beyond the colony. From there, they could see Vera spread below, small against the endless sky. The Drakkar built a fire, its flames steady and bright. Mira sat close, staring into it. She felt the warmth deep inside her, as if the fire was speaking to her heart. The Drakkar told her more of her past. Her parents had been rulers of the dragon throne, betrayed by those who feared their strength. They had fought bravely, but in the end only Mira had survived, hidden away as a baby. She had grown without memory, lost in the shadows of the colony. Until now, Mira listened silently, her hands folded in her lap. Tears filled her eyes, not only of sorrow but also of longing. She had never known her parents, but she felt their presence in the fire, as if their spirit lived within her. Thomas placed a hand on her shoulder. "Whatever you choose, I will stay with you. You are not alone anymore." Mira leaned against him, her small frame finding comfort in his steady strength. She looked again at the fire, and for the first time she did not feel fear of it. She felt belonging. She was still the little girl who once searched trash for food, but she was also something greater. She was heir to the dragon throne, and though the path ahead was filled with danger, she would not walk it alone. The sun rose slowly over the hills beyond Vera, casting golden light across the valley. Mira sat near the fire, her small hands resting on her knees. The events of the past days weighed heavily on her. She had discovered her heritage, awakened the fire within, and narrowly escaped hunters who wanted her captured. But now the time had come to face what she had been hiding from, the people who had betrayed her family long ago, and those who sought the flame's power for their own gain. Thomas knelt beside her, checking the straps of her small pack. "Are you ready?" he asked gently. Mira's eyes were steady, though her heart raced. "I think I am," she said. Her voice was quiet, but it carried strength. "I cannot hide forever. They will come, and I must be ready." The Drakkar stood behind them, their golden eyes glowing softly. They had trained Mira as best they could in the short time she had been with them. She had learned to focus her power, to control the flames that rose from her mark, and to listen to the whispers of her ancestors. Still, she knew the real challenge lay ahead, facing those who had destroyed her family and threatened her life. From the hilltop, Mira could see the colony below. Ships moved across the docks, unaware of the storm gathering. On the outskirts of Vera, Sarvek's forces assembled. They were many, armed with energy weapons and strange devices designed to suppress power like hers. Mira felt a chill, but she also felt something else, a steady warmth in her chest. The fire inside her had grown. It no longer frightened her. The Drakkar leader approached. Mira, you must remember, the power is yours to control. Use it to protect, not to destroy. You are Heir, but you are still you. Mira nodded. She had spent days thinking about this. She did not want to be a ruler who caused fear. She wanted to be strong, but also kind. That thought gave her courage. The first of Sarvek's scouts appeared at the edge of the hill. Mira held her hand high. The flame mark glowed bright, casting light across the grass. The scouts stopped, shielding their eyes. You cannot hide from me, child. Sarvek's voice boomed across the valley. He stepped forward, a tall figure in pale armor, his eyes sharp and cruel. I will take what is mine. Mira stepped forward, her small feet firm against the ground. This is not yours, she said. Her voice carried farther than she expected. I am the heir of the dragon throne. You will not harm anyone while I stand here. A moment of silence fell. Even the Drakkar stepped back, feeling the force of her words. Then the battle began. Sarvek's forces rushed forward, their weapons glowing with blue energy. Mira raised her hand and a wave of flame erupted. The energy spread outward, not to harm, but to push back. Soldiers fell to the ground, thrown by the invisible force. The Drakkar joined her, their own fire striking from all sides, creating a wall of light that separated the attackers from the innocent. Mira's heart pounded, but she focused on her mark. She felt the fire within her, not as a weapon, but as part of herself. She imagined it as a shield, as protection, as warmth for those she cared about. The flame grew taller, brighter, rising around her like wings of light. Sarvek roared in anger and stepped closer, sending a pulse of energy toward her. Mira raised her hand and the pulse collided with her flames. Sparks flew, but she did not falter. The mark on her hand blazed like the sun. You cannot stop me, Sarvek shouted. I am not stopping you, Mira cried. I am protecting everyone. Her words carried power. The fire surged, spreading across the battlefield. Weapons fell from hands. Soldiers stumbled. Sarvek's armor began to glow hot and he stepped back, realizing that brute force alone could not break her. Mira felt herself growing stronger with each heartbeat. The warmth of the fire filled her, spreading from her hand to her chest and beyond. The spirits of her ancestors whispered encouragement. You are the flame. You are Heir. You are strong. With a deep breath, Mira raised both hands. A wall of golden fire expanded outward, not burning but separating friend from foe. Sarvek was trapped on the edge, unable to approach. Mira stepped forward, her small body surrounded by brilliance. You have lost, she said firmly. The dragon throne belongs to me, not to fear or cruelty. Sarvek's face twisted in rage, but he realized the truth in her words. No weapon could harm her while the fire of her ancestors flowed within. With a final roar, he stepped back, signaling his soldiers to retreat. One by one, they fled across the valley, unwilling to face the power of the rightful heir. The Drakkar lowered their hands, their eyes filled with pride. Thomas ran to Mira, holding her close. She was trembling, not from fear, but from the overwhelming energy that had poured through her. You did it, Thomas whispered. You stood up to them. You saved everyone. Mira's eyes filled with tears. I was scared, she admitted. I did not know if I could. That is what makes you strong, the Drakkar said. Strength is not only power. It is courage, heart, and wisdom. You have all of them. As the sun rose higher, the colony below began to stir. People came out of hiding, looking at the light in awe. They had seen the flame of the Heir and knew that the dragon throne had a new ruler. Mira looked at them, feeling the weight of responsibility, but also hope. Later, in a quiet hall near the edge of the colony, the Drakkar helped Mira onto a small platform. It was simple, but its meaning was clear. This was the seat of the dragon throne, the place her parents once ruled from. Mira's hand touched the smooth surface, and the flame mark glowed softly in approval. She looked at Thomas, who smiled gently. You belong here, he said. Mira took a deep breath. She felt the warmth of the fire within her, and for the first time she did not fear it. She was no longer the girl who collected scraps from trash. She was the heir of the dragon throne, the protector of both Drakkar and humans, the symbol of hope and courage. I accept, she said quietly, but her voice carried far. I will protect everyone. I will not let fear rule this world. I will lead with strength and kindness. The Drakkar bowed before her. Thomas stood by her side. Mira's small hand glowed as the mark shone brighter than ever, filling the hall with light. Outside, the sun shone on Vera, casting warmth over the colony that now had hope again. From that day forward, Mira was no longer just a girl of the streets. She was a leader, a protector and a symbol. The flame of the dragon throne had returned, and with it, the promise of a better future. Though challenges would come again, Mira knew she was not alone. She had Thomas, the loyal Drakkar, and the courage that had carried her from the shadows of trash to the light of her destiny. The little alien girl who had once feared the world now stood at the center of it, strong and unafraid, ready to guide all who looked to her for hope. The dragon throne had returned to its rightful heir,